Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is the 22nd of June. It is 2025 on the ancient moon calendar, 2026 on the ancient sun calendar. It is 5785 on the ancient Hebrew Israelite calendar and 10,066 on the ancient Yoruba calendar. Millions and millions and trillions and trillions and millions of years on the ancient Moorish calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in alignment and according to the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this Holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the divine sovereign living justices and Chief Pauline Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in Capitis Diminutio Nolo in red ink, in proprio persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capit et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal one and only natural living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Shemites, Israelites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Moroccan Empire. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic Federal Government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earthwide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. We are the law by our sovereign status, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 Living United States District for Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, divine ministers, possessors, grantors, grantors, and title trustors for all causes for action, and our system is the trustee. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign divine ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war, and we are all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time, and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc, Islam. We are the great I am. We are the great I am. We are the great Islam. Hopefully you can see the S and the L in there. The ancestors are lifting us up to the place where stating the law is an erudite reflex. Be the law automatically. Our minds are now transformed. It's just a reflex for us to be ourselves on our own land. We are, there are no other options. There's no other way to do things. This is just who we are. And so our ancestors have given us now the will to manifest just as a reflex. And sometimes when you're on social media, you hear them talking about flexing with this and flexing with that. Our nationality is a flex. It's just a reflex. And to put the prefix re in front of flex, we can just say it's a flex. Our nationality, our wealth, our prosperity, the law, the courts, our banking, all of that. Who we are, this is not temporary, it's permanent. This is who we've always been. I was watching a video recently, and I just willed to to assist in the transformation of our minds by telling this story. I was watching a video of something that is trending among the blacks, quote unquote, those who were previously acting as black folk, where they are moving to the other Africa over there as U.S. citizens, moving to the other Africa. And, you know, many of them have found that they can get and this is what I heard one of them say, the U.S. dollar goes a lot farther over there than it does in where they came from. So, you know, I guess they're coming from a corpse or a corporation. And as I was watching and listening, my spirit spoke to me and said, that is a representation and I won't even say a representation because it's not a representation. It is a mirror image of what we're doing. Because I was wondering, I asked the ancestors, what happens with those people? Because first they left where their corporation, where they were staying, the U.S. They left the U.S. as Negro, Black, Colored, African Americans, and U.S. citizens in their minds, and they went over there for a better life. And most of them have found over there a better life. It was better than what they had when they were claiming to be U.S. citizens. And so what they don't realize, though, is that they're going there on the strength, quote unquote, of the U.S. dollar going further, when the U.S. dollar is not even going to be, that's not a thing. A U.S. dollar, that's not a thing. A United States dollar is real because we stated that it's real. We created our own, and that is a real measurement for money. But the U.S. dollar, the unum sanctum dollar, is not going to be there. So they've moved all the way over to other places, and now they're trying to convince family members to go over there and do the same thing, not knowing that if the U.S. dollar was bad where they came from, how is it going to get any better over there? It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And we're not casting spells on them. We just know finance and we know the law. The law says you can't, that's not real money, and that people cannot continue to act like it is. So as I was watching the video and they were trying to convince family members to move over there with them and do the same thing, the ancestors spoke to me and said that the same results that they're getting in terms of trying to convince others to move that far away and for a better life, quote unquote, will sometimes be the results that we get as well, where they could convince the majority of them, but there were some that just were not going to move that over there because they didn't feel comfortable moving over there, you know. And so I'm sure that's why the ancestors had us to even start looking at that, you know, because I was wondering, well, what's the status of those persons where they've agreed to be a person for the rest of the time, you know. And you know, they had bigger, they just wanted a bigger house and the nicer things and vacations and things of that nature, the American dream, as it were. Well, we're making it the original living truth, not just a dream. When people came here to our land, which is not the U.S. That's because that's not real. They came here and saw how well we live, and they said, well, the only way for us to live that way is for them to go to sleep so that we can live the American dream. That's why it's called that. So we had to enact going to sleep to who we are so that others can pretend. And some of them, they're seeing us wake up, and they do not. Some, I mean, I saw some. I got an ugly look here and there when they realized that we're waking up, you know. And you'd be surprised at who it was that gave the dirty look. It was someone from India. I was like, wow. You know, and we love the people from India. They're Indians. They're the real Indians. Indians are from India. Americans are from America. Al-Moroccans are from Al-Morocc, ancient Morocco. Here we are. So, with that being stated, just a quick review. Our strategy is state the truth about who we are at all times, publish our truth as often as we will, build the infrastructure. And let me say something about publishing our truth. We're going to be publishing our truth regularly because our documents have to precede us. I'm getting in the habit of that now, of before I go somewhere, send documentation that I'm coming. Before I go somewhere, send documentation that I'm coming. After a while, that's going to be an automatic process. And I'll be able to just hit a couple of buttons and let them know I'm coming on this date and that day. So publishing our truth is a reflex. It's a flex. Building the infrastructure. When we publish our truth, that is building the infrastructure. Courts, banks, public record, all of that. Inform the people and then introduce the cure. And that's what we'll be doing, introducing the cure to anything that's going on. Our truth, and we will state this often. We were born extremely wealthy beyond all that any could think or even imagine. Shortly after birthing, we were placed among the commoners and treated as commoners, not knowing that we are not commoners. We didn't know that before. We do know now. We remember. The commoners were under oath not to speak about our true identity as the nobility and gods at earth. We spent some time out of our minds in order to remember the processes that create systems. We remember them, we learned them, and now we remember who we really are. All obstacles placed in our way were removed by us. Islam. Now, this segment and this topic that we're going to speak about right now is classified as things that nobody talked about until now. And some may have, but was it on the public record? No, it wasn't. Because all of the public didn't see it and didn't know it and didn't hear people talking about it. Question: how do we know that the matriarch lives forever? Name a book that clearly affirms that the matriarch lives forever.
Islam.
Islam.
When God was a woman.
What book? Name a book that clearly affirms that the matriarch lives forever.
That's the name of a book. You haven't seen it or heard about it?
And state the, no, we haven't. State the name of the book again.
When God Was a Woman.
Okay. Okay. Islam.
Yeah. It's Marilyn Stone. That's the subject who wrote it.
Okay. Okay, Islam. Islam. Anyone else?
Islam Empress.
Islam nobility.
It's not a book, but deals with biology, the mitochondria.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
ancient and passed down. So I don't know the book, but science, biology kind of affirms that.
So that's the answer to the first question. The first question was how do we know that the matriarch lives forever? That's the answer to that. Yeah. Islam. Thank you, nobility. Anyone else?
We are the book, and the ancient Biblios says that as well.
Living records, walking around, talking, breathing, having babies, and doing all those things. Islam, indeed. We affirm, Empress Nabi.
Islam,
Empress.
well, following on to that, adding on to that, when we are born, we're born from the matriarch, and we're born, particularly the women, but our sons come from us, so it's the same, but you're born with all of the eggs, the ovum, they're from all of the matriarchs in your line, the whole line from God.
The chronicle.
So,
yes.
you stated previously, both of you, we are here walking, talking, laughing, living, loving, continuing forever.
And we can't even think of a time when we weren't here.
Well, that's it. Because time begins with us, and time isn't even really a thing until we say it is. And so whatever is she, the matriarch.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Islam.
Islam.
Anyone else? Islam. So,
now,
Empress, Islam Empress.
I'm if I may, I'm looking at the question. Name a book that clearly affirms that. And the book, the book I'm really thinking of that's coming to mind, or books, I'm hearing the Biblios Helios or the Helios Biblios, because that's the book of the sun, and the sun is from the mother, from the matriarch, and within the pages of that tome, those books, is the matriarch.
Yes, Empress. Of course, you knew my notes before I showed them. We're going to prove that with some scripture. The Biblios is just one of all the holy writings, and when I say Biblios, I'm talking about the ancient one that we wrote, the Sibyls, the ancient Sibyls wrote, yes.
The Sibyls.
Yes.
Islam.
Holy is Helios, is son of the mother, I yield.
Yes, indeed. Islam, Empress Nabi.
Islam, and I just thought about that. It isn't a book until we give it the name. So we have to manifest that. So the triple darkness has to manifest that.
The truth. So the first book that I'm thinking about is the Holy Quran, the Circle 7. It states clearly in the first chapter, there never was a time when man was not. And where does man come from? These wombs.
Matriarch.
The matriarch. And if there never was a time when man was not, then obviously the matriarch has always been and always will be. So the Circle 7 is first and foremost the Circle 7 Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science. That's a whole honorarium to the matriarch. The whole book is an honorarium to the matriarch. And so is the Biblios Heliotext. In the Biblios, there are two scriptures in particular, but there are more, and I will point those out shortly. In Genesis or Genesis, in Genesis 3 and 4, the serpent was the one that told the woman, "You will not surely die." That's one verse. That is the whole verse. That means that there was nothing before, nothing after that can change what the serpent said. See, the serpent knew who she was. That's why he said, "You will not surely die." He knew who he was talking to. That's why he came to her, because he had to get her permission to spoil anything else or change anything or do anything or convince a man of anything. He had to come through her because the man comes through her. Now, that's a pre-Biblios, they call that pre-Adamic principle right there. And then Genesis, the 3rd chapter, verse 20 says, Adam called his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. If she's the mother of all the living, she can't die, or else nothing else living would be born. So that doesn't happen. She's still living through all of us. The matriarchal energy lives in us, through us, from ancient times, from time immemorial. I want to point something out that they did not teach us in the church, but it's very clear. First, Eve was not made to leave the Garden of Eden. She always had access to the Garden of Eden. Always. Islam, Empress.
She is the Garden of Eden.
She is the Garden of Eden. She is. And never once was she told to leave the Garden of Eden. Never once. In Genesis, the 3rd chapter, verses 23 and 24, it says, so the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. After he drove the man out, and it specifically says this, the man was driven out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword, and we know sword is word, flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. So it's by words that you live forever. It's by words. That's what a flaming sword is. But my final thought on the matriarch living forever is that in the Biblios, Eve's death was never mentioned at all. It never said she died. The Biblios never said that. The last you heard about Eve in the Biblios in the Old Testament, was that she was giving birth to Seth. So she was busy making more babies. And there was never any mention of her death. It talked about Adam being 930 years old, and then he died, and Abraham died, and all of that. Never talked about the matriarch's dying. Never. And that's how we know the matriarchal energy lives forever.
Islam,
Empress.
Looking at the word Eve, you could pronounce it, the E, in the international phonetic sound is ever.
Yes.
Ever. The sound actually is ever anyway.
It's ever.
Ever.
Yes.
Evolution, ever. Keeps on.
Forever.
Forever. Ever. Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's not an accident.
No, not at all. And that's the thing. The sounds are not accidental.
Yeah.
That's the power. That's the flaming sword. That's the, it's the sound that is transformed into the flaming sword. And
yes.
So no, there's nothing accidental.
And the sword is our mouth. We know that. The sword is the tongue.
I know that. Exactly, it's the tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue.
Of course. Of course.
Tongue,
that's biblical.
It's right, and that's for words that you emit, the sounds you sound, but also for what you also ingest, take in.
It's for the tree of life.
It's
and all of it, the things related to the tree of life.
Right. The highways in and out.
Yeah.
And, in the last, I think it was the previous scripture that you had where it said, what is the serpent?
The serpent said.
Drove man out of woman? Which one?
It says that the Lord banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken.
Right. And then he drove the man out.
Yeah.
That depicts it, and I see that. That's working the earth being the mother. But do you know what I saw? After he drove the man out, I didn't see it not as a negative, it's neither here nor there, but the son being born from the mother.
Yeah.
Because the son, when the God said, let us go down and make man in our image, man, the son, had to come forth to do the work that the Lord, the God wished to experience. That's what I saw. The picture that it was like that, those 6 words, I just saw a birthing. So just wanted to share that.
And someone put in the chat, Chief Justice L put in the chat, in ancient times, man meant woman. It still does.
Yes. And
it still does.
When people say he, they actually, he is used for man and woman because of that same reason.
Yeah.
Because the first man is womb man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
womb man. There never was a time when womb man was not. Islam, Justice Anthony.
Peace and great grand rising.
Rising.
Of love and respect, Empress.
Islam.
I would say that it is more the womb, the stargate of the woman, than the woman itself or herself. That is more significant. Because that is where all life begins in the womb.
And you really kind of can't separate the womb and the womb man,
right.
From each other. You can't. They don't come apart.
Because the womb is inside the woman, as you are stating.
Yeah.
But I went to the core of it, which is the womb.
Yeah.
Islam.
See, we have everything about us is the core. The heart is the core. The womb is the core. The mind is the core. We are the core. CORE, Islam. That the core is where life begins. Just like in an apple, if you have an apple core, you're going to have seeds in there. Islam. Islam nobility.
How's the Empress?
All is well, nobility.
I can hear it. I just wanted to ask and see what your response will be.
Islam.
So, am I hearing correctly that, based on what's been said, in actuality, there's no distinction between the man and the woman?
In reality, not really, because in our wombs, you all start out with female as females, and then we we add a code in there somewhere around the 3rd month that causes your male anatomy to just grow larger than it would if you were a female.
So and before the manifest, we the same.
The same. Everyone is the same. Yes.
Islam.
And that's at conception up until we in our superconscious say, okay, flip. This is going to be a boy, or a male, or a man, a male. And we decide that around the 3rd month of pregnancy. We make that decision, and then the genes obey our command, because it's a spiritual command that we give within. And when we give that spiritual command, the genes start moving in the direction that they should to produce.
So it is basically done unconsciously, and so
Never unconsciously, never
okay.
unconsciously, always superconsciously.
How would I say?
Superconscious.
In other words, I'm saying, females have babies all day, right? But
yes, we do.
Some are not aware of what they're going through. So when I say that they're not doing with the process you just described,
mm-hmm.
it's natural. It's like breathing.
It's like breathing. It is.
Okay.
Except that ignorance of that law is no excuse. We still do it. Our superconscious still decides that, okay, this will be
it's just
this gender.
In tune with it, knowing what's going on with it.
So the female until now, let me put it that way. Until now, we could not hear that decision being made by us because we were not in tune with our superconscious.
Right.
But the more we know who we are, like we do now, that would not be something that we just let our superconscious do for us. We would actually guide our superconscious to whatever we will, to whoever we will. So we would intentionally make that decision, and it will manifest according to our intent.
Right.
We're that powerful.
Yes.
And that, Justice Ogunwale, is the same energy, matriarchal energy, that we used before we started making sons. Because, see, before we used to impregnate ourselves with that energy. We would say, I will to reproduce. And just like the earth, the seed was already in us. We give you your seed when you're in our wombs. We give you your male parts when you're in our wombs because we have that energy. And we could literally think that we will to produce and impregnate ourselves. We have all the parts. We prove that every time we have a son and he comes out with all his male parts.
But this is what I'm hearing, that, and another part I'm not hearing.
Mm-hmm.
If in spirit, before the manifest,
yes,
there's no male or female, and it's just spirit, and spirit is what's creating male or female, then we all come from that same spirit, right? So it's us as that spirit, as a unit that's created.
So let me put it this way, and yes, you're correct that we are one. That is correct. We say it all the time. We are one. In the beginning, the matriarch, said, "Let us go down and make man in our image and after our like." Man is a species, a human species. That means men and women. It means male and men and women. Energy. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we said, let us go down and make man in our image and after our likeness, that meant all. That meant everybody. Everybody that can come from a womb, come from our womb, rather. Everybody that comes from our womb is that. Male or female. Either one. We just assign certain genometric tasks to male, to the men, to our sons. They have a specific task. And so their body is geared towards that, and their brain and their psyche. We program that before we even get pregnant. We program that. It's called generational consciousness. See, everything, when the Biblios says that God knew you before you came here, it's because we programmed all of that stuff in. Some people call it generational blessings. Some people call it genes, passed down and all of that. They use all types of inferior language for that process. But whatever mother, and this is why it's so important to honor your daughters. Yes, honor your sons too, but daughters, there's a specific erudition that daughters must have. Because even when they're young, when they're 2, 3, 5, 10, 12 years old, that is the pre-programming of any heirs that they may have. Whatever they go through, their heirs are going to inherit some of that genometric energy. And that's why it's so important. In the patriarchal era, which is the one we just enacted previously, sons were given. Most people were like, "Oh, we hope it's a boy. We hope it's a boy," because there was a certain something they were going to. There were plans that they had for the boys, and then the girls had a different plan that in that previous era was it could be considered inferior. But this era that we're at, and since ancient times, our daughters, our empresses, from the time we are even impregnated with them, we're putting in them metrics, mental, physical, spiritual metrics, genometrics that they inherit. And so, culturally, where our culture is concerned, the moment a woman, and this will become more pronounced as we continue to prosper. The minute a woman says that she's pregnant, yes, we honor the matriarch all the time, but that goes on super high when she is saying, "I'm going to have an heir." All the stops come out and all of that. That is how, and that's the culture that we're setting for ourselves in alignment with what our ancestors did.
Yes.
Is that all the stops come out, she gets the treatment all day, every day, and then when the heir comes, it's a celebration.
Islam.
And we actually have to start doing that as we prosper more and as things continue to manifest. That's going to be a huge deal for us. Islam, Empress.
I was just going to add that our heirs are our wealth.
Yes.
So, it was natural and understood that protection, that cushion of abundance of care and protection around the woman,
yeah,
who was the carrier of the wealth. So that was completely natural.
Yeah.
In the times when we produced ourselves,
yeah,
we brought forth ourselves, as in women.
Yes.
We did not, it was when we made that decision to go down. We made well, of course, we make everyone, create everyone, but the sun was that slight change, as you stated, for certain particular tasks. As with the anatomy and everyone, we're all the same for the first trimester approximately.
Yeah.
The anatomy, even the anatomy is really at the core the same, but it changes. The prostate was the womb.
Yeah.
That becomes, the womb that becomes the prostate. It's very interesting when if one delves into a little bit into the anatomical makeup, all still the same source, recombined, changed a little, transformed.
Yes.
Same.
Given a new directive.
A new directive. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go this way, and the matriarch, the mitochondria will still go this way, and then you go this way, and y'all come back together. At a very beautiful process.
And the word
very beautiful
mitochondria.
Yes.
That word, the mighty conjurer.
Yes. That is what that means.
What that really means.
Yep.
I yield. Yes.
The mighty conjurer. That's a good one. Oh, that's good. I love that. Empress Nabi.
Islam, when she said that, I thought about the manifestation in the flesh. We're the only ones that can create. So, the manifestation of that. And I thought about that when Brother Tonus was speaking as well, when he was talking about currency. And it's our current that we are manifesting and transmuting from male to female, making that decision, from the mind, from the mint, what we're going to bring forward.
Yeah. See, we show our maturity when we know these things and speak them out. Everyone, it is clear to whoever listens or hears that we have matured spiritually and consciously as to who we really are. That we have the authority to make the decision on whether we're going to have a boy or a girl. God or goddess. We make that decision. And we have 3 months to do so. We gave ourselves a little grace and we said we'll give ourselves 3 months to decide, and then we'll make the decision, and then the cells will obey. Because that's a system too.
Yeah, true mystics.
Yeah. And see, everybody has known this about us. Everyone has always known this about us. It is knowing these things, because this is the age of knowing. This is the knowing era. This is the knowing age. So now, speaking of the birth, let's ask the question: does the birth certificate have weight and length and other information on it? We will that you take a look at whatever was issued previously that was doing business as a birth certificate, and see, does it have weight and length and other information on it?
No, Islam. The Empress Shasha.
Yes.
No, that not on the fraudulent issue.
Right.
No.
Anyone else? Does anyone? And that answers the same, or that replies the same for us as well. There was no weight or length or any other information on our birth certificate. Does anyone else Does anyone have a birth certificate where the weight and length and all of that was on it?
Islam.
Islam?
Yeah, she's certainly of Florida territory. My granddaughter's birth certificate may have that information on it.
You said it may have it?
Yes.
So you're not sure?
No, I'll check and I'll email you if it does.
Okay.
All right.
So, can anyone take an erudition guess about why weight and length and other information was not on the majority of those certificates that were issued, where from the previous? Islam?
The application did. It had the date and the weight on there. The application, because I had at one point the enactment of the document that was typed out when I was born, and it had that information on it.
The application? But that's not the certificate, though, right?
But I'm saying, but the information that they collected, it had it, but it didn't make its way to the certificate, no.
Okay, can anyone erudition a guess about why it was not on the weight on the birth certificate?
Islam,
Empress.
Well, the weight and the length being there would suggest something tangible, because
that's so good. That's good. Oh, that's good.
That's really where because the certificate is a transfer document. What would the unit of measurement be, lengthwise, weight-wise? It's something that really didn't exist. So what would you be weighing? What would you be measuring?
That's so good. That's a great thought path. That's an awesome thought path. Empress Shasha, that is so good. Because see,
I'm pardon.
Islam.
Well, didn't those things, wasn't they enacted after the Bankruptcy Act of 1933?
Those are instruments of bankruptcy. Those are bottomry instruments. They were bottomry instruments.
And after bankruptcy, the weights and measures was removed from the system.
That's the answer right there, Empress Angel. That is the answer. That's the reason why. Why would they remove weights and measures? Why? After the bankruptcy, why? That's good. That's great. That's excellent.
Yeah, because there was no more gold in circulation. So there was no need for weights and measures because the Bankruptcy Act enacted removing that. So when they created the certificates, they was already in the debt standard, if there was such a thing, but the debt enactment. So so there was no need for it. And if it did, it would show that well, first of all, they couldn't do it because, like Empress Sasha said, it was the fact that they couldn't name, they couldn't speak. Oh yeah, because we was watching something some time ago, and it was stated that the reason why names and things was changed because they didn't have the permission to do so.
They didn't have the authority to call us anything.
Exactly.
And Empress Angel, that's so good. I'm gonna add just a little bit of clarity to what you're saying for those who are listening. Let me add a little bit of clarity for those who are listening and why this is so important. Oh my goodness, why this is so important. Bottomry instruments are not going to have anything about weights and measures on them for the very reason Empress Angel talked about. They were bankrupt. That's what makes it a bottomry instrument. Our heirs are a commodity. That's why we're supposed to have weights and measures on our birth certificate. that we create. That's why we're supposed to do it, because any previous system, any enactment of a system is not competent to weigh and measure us. Their systems are not competent to do that. They can't weigh gold and silver, and they only exist on paper. So what would you be doing weighing some gold and silver and it only exists on paper? More importantly, though, the same weights and measures that is applied to gold and silver and tangible assets that last forever has to be applied to our heirs. Has to be. Yes, the system is elevated, but we come from the same earth that the gold and silver does. That ought to tell you right there that those things, those other birth certificates and those who created them are fake and false and not real and have no tangible value. None. That's why no weights and measures on those instruments. Bottomry instruments don't have them, and they're not supposed to. Particularly not for us. Specifically.
Islam,
Empress.
and when you look at the fact that whomever creates a thing or forms a thing or makes a thing, that is the nature of the thing that is made. So when they or it in the enactment has neither weight nor measure, then nothing that comes from such a thing can have that either.
It can't be real either. It can't be tangible either.
Well, that's it. It's not tangible. You have to have weight and measure in order to be tangible.
Think about all the foods that have weight and measure.
And they're not food.
But the heirs don't?
But the heirs don't. Well, what I was saying with the food piece was the food, the processed food made in the factories that is not nourishment nor nutrition. That was, let me clarify that piece. But you are absolutely correct, because the earth, the womb from which our heirs come, they're the gold.
Yes. That's the proof.
That's the proof.
So now, as we're creating birth records for our heirs, we have to include weights and measures in there. We have to.
But it's silly that when you're pregnant, at the place you go to, they always weigh you to see how much weight you've gained. And so they call it baby weight, but when the baby comes out, they can't put the weight on the affidavit, the document, because that's not their affidavit, it's our side affidavit. But for the point, they weigh the mother, but not the baby.
Is that competent or no? That's why we have to do our own everything like that. It's our system. We have to let our system do what it's supposed to do, because that stuff was not competent at all. Not at all. That's just so crazy to me, that no weights and measures for commodities, for Earth's rare elements and minerals. All this gold and silver and sulfur and carbon in us and no measurement? Listen, every time I eat a sandwich or whatever, whatever I eat that causes me to gain or lose weight, that's a measurement of value. It's a measurement of value because that's real carbon. That's either being tributed back to nature or that I'm collecting. And I've stated this before, Morris. Did you know, and this is a little bit, some might not find it as tasteful to make this statement, but I'm going to make it anyway, that even your the residuals from a visit to the lavatory is still a valuable commodity. Did you know that?
Islam, yes.
Islam. Valuable commodities. You know how many vitamins, minerals, elements, chemicals, and things are in there that's necessary for life to happen?
Islam, yes, because nothing is considered really truly waste from us. It's not, because if ashes and dust does the flesh go, and even then that has substance and minerals and things. So does the fecal matter, because it has matter, as is.
Well,
stated, matter is matter. You know, weights and measures equals matter.
So when you're doing when they were doing medical things, they would be weighing how much came out and all of this and that. That's, you know, weights and measures on that, but not weights and measures on the heirs who are the future.
Islam, even
somebody missed a huge step, but we didn't miss it. Islam, Empress.
Islam, it's also used in medical to be able to diagnose what's going on with your body. That's actually one of the best ways to be able to see your deficiencies.
And your the state of the mother, and the state of the mother being pregnant or no.
Yes.
Are you going to? Is your estate going to grow, or are you waiting a while? That's why I said, if I knew when I was 20 what I know now, boy, y'all be like, Light had so many children that it's just not even funny. She made it into the Guinness Book of World Records for written by the ancients, of course, for having the most children. I would have had so many babies if I knew then what I know now. I'm not ruling it out, but wow. We are extremely wealthy, and we just keep, that's what I'm saying, we don't die, we just keep multiplying and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. So let it be applied in your daily lives and your daily living, that you go back and look at the birth records that you have created and add weights and measures. And if you don't know the weights and measures of your heirs because it wasn't on that first one, go within and ask the Spirit to tell you and show you what it is, and then put what the Spirit tells you on there, and you will be right. Because the Spirit brings all things to our remembrance. I know we all saw that information. They showed it, but it was not put on those certificates. And the reason why it wasn't on those fake things is because property does not have this information on tables and chairs. They don't do weights and measures on tables and chairs and slaves and all of that. They don't do weights and measures on that. So why put it on there? And then turn around and ask you to show that every time you need an ID or something. That just doesn't make sense. Empress Angel, Islam.
Just one quick thing. When you state that on that affidavit, you put it on shore. You shore it. You make it sure. You know what I'm saying? Because we on shore, and then also you're shoring, and you're saying, I'm sure that this heir is this weight and this measure. I'm sure, and putting it shore and shoring and everything. You're also what's the word? where you're anchoring it and all those other things.
Onto the land. On the land. Yeah.
Because just as Nathan
affidavit, the 8.5 by 14 is on the land. The birth certificate is on the shore.
Mm-hmm. We was looking at something, and one of the subjects, who was a good subject, was talking about whatever they're doing and whatever, but they said it's on shore. That's the words that they use in the what was it? The advertisement for whatever they was trying to put out there. It said on shore. We looked at each other and said, "Oh, they have been listening."
They have been listening. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. That's why Puerto Rico, or state of Puerto Rico, was considered offshore. And that's where they put the U.S. Offshore at Puerto Rico, which is an island, quote unquote. Islam. Commodities and natural resources do have weights and measures on the record. Natural resources and natural sources have weights and measures. That means us. Okay? So that's just another everyday application that has to happen for us where we're concerned. As we're building our temples and getting ready to expand all that we're doing, these are things that we keep in mind.
Islam.
Weights and measures. Birth certificates should have weights and measures on them. Just one moment. Islam, Empress.
As you explain that piece, what I'm seeing is the commodities and natural resources are the original.
Yes.
Source. And then property or products are, incarnations from things, forms created in our
byproducts.
Right. They come, so it's the next stage.
Yeah.
So that's what was jumping out at me. Again, it goes back to who and what is the original.
And see, corpses and corporations didn't have the authority to even open their mouths and speak on that at all.
Exactly. We
must do that. And that's the same way that it is with anything that corpses and corporations were previously enacting, is that they are not allowed to speak on or as sovereign. No. Quiet with that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's why they had to corrupt everything.
Exactly. And get the sovereigns in the enactment to consent by their word or deed to giving the fiction matter.
Yes, to giving, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Manifestation, as it were, and I'll use that word and put it in air quotes because they still were only on paper.
And that's the piece. That's the piece. Paper is not papyrus.
No, it's not. And it's not living unless we use it.
And that's exactly.
Did you know when we put our right red thumbprint on something, it's actually putting matter and biological emphasis and energy onto the paper?
What is blood?
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Our signature, is a sign. These signs shall follow them.
And
it's
think
a
about
sign.
it. Signature, it's a sigil. It's a sigil, it's a symbol, and it's nature.
It's a sign of nature.
Sign of nature. That is living, value, weight, measures, existence, source, everything.
Yeah. So is the autograph. Auto means it moves by itself.
Auto, right.
On its own power. And graph just means writing.
right. That's right. It's living.
Period. So
I would also hear grafted into, and that's why they would enact grafting our autographs and grafting into their enactment of debt.
Well, and that the Bible talks about some persons being or people being grafted into but they can be grafted out too. That means just write them out, and that's really what we've done in terms of third-party interlopers. Is we have written them out by writing our own documents. That's all we did was write them out. They don't exist in our documents because we didn't put them there. Third-party interlopers. We didn't do that. Very, very simple. The ancestors pointed that out to us from the very beginning. If they seem to have wrote themselves in, they had to write, then somebody got to write them out. If you don't want them there, if you don't want third-party interlopers there, if you don't want all capital letters in black ink by foreigners there, write them out. That means produce your own documentation and don't put them in there. It's that simple for us to sovereignly state and be. So there are a couple of sidebars, but I have one other question. Because see, we're going right in alignment here. Why did the Prophet Noble Drew Ali state that the printing press would be one of our greatest tools? Because see, we're talking about writing in and writing out and all of that. Why did he say that?
Islam.
There's a reason. Islam, Empress.
Because we are to tell our stories, tell our truth, and that is the forum for that which then we spread far and wide.
Yes.
Islam. Going back to the beginning, to create our own record or book.
Yes. Yes. Justice G. Certain L says to present ourselves. Yes. And look at this. In addition and in affirmation of what you just stated, Empress, the usurpation enactment happened through the printing press. Whether they were printing in their enactment birth certificates, deeds, records, court records, whatever it is that they were enacting, foreigners began publishing plays and scripts in newspapers. And, we can see some of those clippings from the enactment of newspapers and circulating that stuff. They were not talking to us, nor were we supposed to consume those black operations. Black corpse publications with capitalized dead letters. It started out in Hollywood as scripts and plays. Now listen, let's just picture this, Morris, that we're all living on our land. We all know who we are. We have our, everything is written out. Everybody knows who they are. We're just going along enjoying our estate. Then this company has been hired to do plays and theater in Hollywood. And so they do their scripts and their plays in all capital letters and black ink, okay? Now, we're all out on the land at all the different territories, Mississippi, Alabama, Washington, everywhere. We're everywhere, Hawaii, Jamaica, everywhere. This company from Hollywood, first they're doing plays and stuff like that. And in their plays, they use props like newspaper and money and things like that in their theatrics. But then what happens when their money, quote unquote, and their newspapers get out into the public. And people start reading it thinking this is real. And when they find out that the nobility is reading this thinking that it's real, they get together on Jekyll Island and they say, hey, they are actually starting to believe that the newspapers that Hollywood is putting out is real, and that the money that they use in the Hollywood plays is real, but it's really not real. But they're thinking it's real. They're starting to think that everything that comes from Hollywood is real. So let's spread this out and start sending actors into all the territories to set up little shops and stores where they only accept Hollywood fake money, monopoly money. That's how it happened. That was the enactment. That's how it happened. And then they started exporting films with that stuff in it. And everywhere that they would export it, they would go and send missionaries and aid workers, quote unquote, to those places to reinforce those videos and those films, those plays. That is how the usurpation was enacted, everyone. That's how it happened. And then they started setting up their own little grocery stores and things on the land. And we're going down, we're like, oh, we heard they're building this new place. Let's go down there. And when we take our gold and silver and our currency down there, they're like, oh, no, we don't accept that here. But you can go down to the bank, quote unquote, and get some whatever, and then you can come here. It was all an act. And that's how it happened. And then in 1871, they said, okay, we need more actors to come. We need more actors. So Ellis Island and New York and other California, other places, other ports, they started coming in through the other ports, saying, okay, when you get there, they're going to issue you this birth certificate. It's not going to have weights and measures on it, so that's how you know it's not real. You know it's not real because it's coming from Hollywood. It's not real because it's coming from Hollywood. Now, the matriarchs know that because they're not creating any birth certificates. Why would matriarchs let some foreigners create birth certificates for their babies? Where we come from, that's called refuse. Refuse, trash, refuse. That means we refuse it. Now, think about the word refuse too, even, because that word has been really coming forth. When you don't will to accept some mail, you just put refused on it and send it back. You don't even open it, you just put refused on it, send it back. That's the same word that's on trash cans. And that's what we called trash in the beginning. It was refuse collection. Anything we refused became trash. So all of those records and documents, all of that stuff is refuse. That means we just refuse to take it. That's why trash is called refuse. And that's why refusing things is called refuse. But the root word to refuse is fuse. That's a currency word. That's an electrical word. Fuse, like the fuse.
Islam, when a fuse is not working, there's no power going through.
No currency.
No currency, no current.
Our ancestors thought of everything. They didn't miss anything. They didn't miss a beat. Not at all. They did not. Because let me just look really quickly. Let me look really quickly.
While you're looking, the root, Latin root fundere, to pour.
Speak up a little bit, Empress. We didn't hear you.
Oh, when the Latin root of refuse, the verb fundere, which means to pour.
Oh.
Refundere, give back, restore, return, literally pour back, flow back. So it's about flow, which is what we were stating, current flow. But yeah, and fund.
Well, we use in banking, we use the term liquid or liquidation.
Exactly. Which is
flow. Which is something that we're looking at, liquidity, being liquid. That means just taking what we have and going and getting and using and building and building and building. We're looking at that piece and us being liquid. And we are liquid already. We know that. We know that the things that we produce and create, we can buy them back and forth with each other. We know that. That's all well and good. We're looking at the whole process of liquidity, so that it's not a flood, it's a latter rain. It's not a flood, it's a standard. So refuse. A refusal is a denial of anything demanded, solicited, or offered for acceptance. Think about that. Refusal, denial of anything demanded, solicited, or offered for acceptance. Anything that comes in the quote-unquote mail from the Postal Service, the actors that were acting previously as Postal Service, a refusal is a denial of anything demanded, solicited, or offered for acceptance. In engineering, the resistance to further driving offered by a pile, the right or chance to accept or refuse something before it is offered to another, option preemption. And just like a refundere, to pour back, is what Empress Shasha stated. To decline to accept, to reject, to decline to do, give, or grant, to decline to accept or submit to decline to undergo, to stop short without jumping, to renounce, to disavow, to disown. In military usage, to bring back out of line, the center or a flank, to protect against possible enemy attack from that sector. So to pull it out of line, to protect it. Islam. And then when we look up the word fuse by itself instead of refuse, it just says to pour out, to melt, to liquefy by heat, to make fluid, to unite as if by melting together, to blend as America fuses the characteristics of various peoples into one, which that's not true, but in optics, to blend by bringing the eyes into a visual line. Wow. So this is how, see, nobody rebutted the fake newspapers that they started sending out. Nobody rebutted the black letters and the capital letters in black ink. When you see photos of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the newspaper, they have everything in capital letters and black ink, and they're talking about him like he's black. They then started distributing scripts and plays, then newspapers, then advertisements, billboards, and signs, then records and public notices, then documents, and then private records. This is how usurpation happened. And all we're doing, Moors, listen to me, all we're doing is refusing all of that and saying that's not real, we're not actors. And, you know, the real is this. This is the real record. That's all we're doing, is rebutting that. We know it's acting. We know it's fake. That's how it got out. All we have to do is properly rebut it with our courts. And when we use our courts, all that's doing is saying that we know that that's theater, and we're not part of that theater.
Islam. Justice Nick and I just watched a movie titled How It Ends. And as I was watching this movie, I was like saying to myself, you know, the main actors in this film, they was witnessing, you know, these great, you know, things that was happening, places burning, volcanoes, ash, earth floods, and whatever, what have you. And when in the enactment, when you're escaping with your life, and that's what you care about, you're not looking to save documents and things. So my thought was, gosh, those people who did survive, what are they going to use to present to say who they are? Because, you know, if your house is on fire and you can't get inside of it and the house is burnt down and flooded and things, you're not thinking about getting your documents. You're looking to save your life. So I'm saying to myself, well, good thing we just can create our own anyway. And that's what they did when, you know, we decided to go to sleep. And they said, oh, since they went to sleep, we can just create what we want, and they'll take it, because what they was doing before, we don't want to do that. We want to do our own thing. So we'll just give it to them, and they really accepted it. They didn't rebut it. So, hey, we just create our own, and then this is that. It's on the record. We created the record, and that's it. And so now that we've come awake and that's destroyed, and, you know, we came out of her, as it were.
Yes.
And, now we say, oh, that doesn't exist. Everything is burnt down. Oh, so we just have to create our own. Yeah, create your own.
and now we just know how to do it. So when you see places like California burning and Los Angeles burning and North Carolina, South Carolina, states of flooded and all that just means is, yeah, we've already put on the record how to create and what needs to be created. We've already done that. How we did it already. For the original indigenous people, and then for the subjects, they do things the same way they did in 1871, except this time it's reversed. A white affidavit without spot or wrinkle or blemish or any such thing, stating in no uncertain terms that you are subject to us and on our land, period. And the Constitution for the United States and all of that. They know what to say. They know what to say. They're not stupid. Our subjects are smart. So we don't have to worry about them. It's other Moors. Because they, you know, Whenever people would order a subscription to the Wall Street Journal, what were they really getting? A Hollywood newspaper. That's it.
And the word subscript, come on now, it's the script.
That should have told people that it was not for the sovereigns. Sub means under, and we're not under anything or anyone. We're not under a spell. We know who we are.
That entire part right there.
Come on now.
Of the script.
So nothing was really hid from us. Nothing was hid from us. We just had to keep speaking to each other the way we're doing now. Keep congressing and governing. That's all we have to do. And rebut the fakery. So first, one of the ways to record, really quickly, and we're going to wind up the Congress in just momentarily. First, the record in the holy books used to look like this. This is how they looked before. So, like if we were going to record a birth in a holy Quran or a Biblios or the clan book, because that's really what birth certificates and birth affidavits were about, is recording in the clan book that another heir has joined and is living. We would put it, this says born 1968, 1968, August the 3rd, at 12:35 post meridian, at 12:35 p.m. That's what it is right there. And then we would record weights and measures. £6, 4 ounces, or 8 pounds, 5 ounces, and 16 inches or whatever, black eyes or brown eyes, black onyx or obsidian hair. We didn't use the term black, we used onyx or obsidian. And, we would just tell some things about weights and measures. Are there any questions about how to record your heirs properly and how to record yourself properly?
Islam,
Empress.
Just thinking about weights and measures, thinking about systems to use, and using ancient systems instead of what we have,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Islam.
Yep. I thought it was going to be difficult, and I don't know why I thought that, because nothing has been thus far difficult about the Roman numerals, but they're I know them the same way I know 1, 2, 3, 4, the Arabic numbers that we've been using. Because we've been using them, our ability to and capacity for erudition is exponentially multiplied and continues to grow every day. So, yes, our ancient ways have come roaring back, and for that we're grateful. No one can say, "Oh, that's not ancient. That looks just like whatever." No, no one will deny that that's ancient. That's an ancient entry in a holy book. And the holiest book of all is the book that talks about our birth. I just thought I would put that out there. What do you think the Biblios was about? It was about the birth of heirs throughout the whole thing.
Genealogy.
That's it. Ancestry and ascendancy and all of that. That's what they were about. That's why it's called a holy book. And our genealogy has nothing to do with Babylon. Matthew, the first chapter, for all who just want to know the genealogy of quote unquote Jesus. Read Matthew, the first chapter, and it's going to tell you where Babylon came in at with all of that. We don't have Babylon in our genealogy and birth records. No offense to anyone, just pointing something out for you to read and research for yourself. Yes, Empress Shasha says birth records were often kept within the pages of the family holy book. Of course. And for the nobility, we actually published our genealogy. We wrote it into the mountains and into the rocks. We put it everywhere. That was our way of publishing. That was one of our ways of publishing. And then it was also spoken in the stars as well. Islam. So really, Islam, Empress.
Is there on the record a copy of our Quran? If I would like to record everything in our Quran.
Yeah, there is. There are several places you could and also one of the nobles rewrote it, but Empress Nabi, let me just say this about that. The matriarchs have to write it. And we started writing it. We're not done yet, but we started writing it. But any matriarchs who will to do that part, the easiest way to restate the Holy Quran is to copy and paste online from whatever is there. Copy and paste it onto a blank piece of paper in Word or whatever, and then go through and just start whatever the Spirit tells you about how to change it, and add the matriarch in there, because the matriarchs are in there. It's just not stated as a matriarchal writing, and it needs to be, because the Prophet Noor Ali said if he told you the half, most would go back to sleep. He couldn't tell the other half because the other half is matriarchal. Okay.
And it does say our divine creed, so we would have to record ourselves.
Of course we have to do that.
And that's
so, Empress Nabi, I know you have a strong galactic group over there. If y'all want to tackle that one,
we'll see.
Okay, it's like, hey,
yes,
listen, it's gonna be there. We're taking our time building our nation, so it'll be there. It'll be there.
Islam.
We started on it, but from our perspective, when it's time, nothing's going to stop it. So,
Islam,
Empress.
Are you going to show the document you showed, the black carbon copy with the white thumbprint?
Yes, I'm getting there right now. I'm going there right now.
Oh, okay.
I have a couple of them that I'm going to show. First, this is one of the first ones regarding contracts. Remember, we talked about restating VIN numbers on automobiles, and
correct.
Say again, Empress.
Now we have to decapitalize them, correct?
Yes, they have to be decapitalized. This is what we were stating when we said each character has a meaning. It's attached to a contract somewhere. That's why we have to decapitalize it and put it in blue. The first one is country of manufacture. So we already know ancient Morocco, or we could say United States for America. Either one, we are always the States United. The reason that we say United States for America is because commerce happens at that level. From ancient times, we didn't need commerce. Anciently, we could just go out onto the land and pick from the trees anything that was necessary, anything we needed. We built homes into the clefts of the mountains and rocks. That's how we did things at that time. So we didn't need commerce and a commercial system to do that. We lived on the land, and everything we got came from the land. But then when you start talking about processes and products and changing things from their original format to some other format, then you're talking about contracting and commerce and mercantilism and things of that nature. And that we take that, it originates on the land, and we keep it financially in a special purpose vehicle financially. That's the reason why we say United States for America instead of saying the cars were, manufactured at ancient Morocco. Well, that's true, but we keep commerce in a specific special purpose vehicle so that when things happen commercially, the land is still the land. Period. It's still the land. If other currencies are being used, then the land is still the land. They're all being used in this United States for America vehicle or commercial vehicle, a commercial automobile or section. It's a domain, a commercial domain. That's the right word. So, and then the second letter is vehicle manufacturer. The third is vehicle type of division. And again, we get to say what these really are, but I just will to show you all that is another something that we restate because vehicles are starting to manifest for us. And we have to know proper recording of that product and the process thereof. The model year here, security check digit, assembly plant, vehicles production number. The last 6 is usually the vehicle production number, and so on and so forth. Are there any questions about that? Islam.
My question is vehicle versus conveyance. So my spirit I'm inclined to use automobile or conveyance or some other, but is that okay?
Yes, Empress. Thank you for bringing that up because that's very important. We don't call them vehicles because vehicle is a military term.
Right, and
it's a war term.
Exactly.
We call them automobiles. We call them horseless carriage. We call them all of that, all of those things, those other words that you stated. And then when you're talking about ancient Morocco, it's conveyance because it conveys energy. Ancient Morocco is an energetic land that has always been here. The United States for America is a specific jurisdiction on the land, but it's a different jurisdiction than just the land. It's a commercial jurisdiction. That's what the United States is. It's a jurisdiction. It's not the land and the country and all of that. It's not that. And that was the issue that was being had. We've just clarified that by creating our own United States, which we've always been the States United, and using that to do commerce according to our will, to create our own money, and to do all the things that we do. Islam. Any other questions, comments about that? No, we don't call them vehicles. We call them automobiles or conveyances, or carriages or something of that nature. Islam. As a sidebar, there's a sidebar is just Islam Empress.
So, question. So, Can you go back to where you had just at? Thank you. So, when we do our court actions and we create our cause action numbers, and then when we restate these numbers and alphanumeric numbers, could we put the cause action numbers in there as well to change that?
It would be more orderly to make the VIN number the cause for action number than to change the VIN number to a cause for action number. You know what I'm saying?
Because I was just thinking, like, change out the vehicle product number and just put your cause for action number there.
I would not suggest that, only because the VIN number is a restatement. And when you're restating things, it's not necessarily changing that number, it's changing the contracts behind the number. So the number stays the same, except that the letters and the numbers are decapitalized. That keeps the record in a specific order. And then you just change the contracts behind all of that. On your cause for action, you will to know what the VIN number is for that automobile.
Okay.
Now, if you decided to do what you're doing, then it's going to cause a bunch of other things to happen. In terms of when the automobile arrives, you're going to have to take all of that stuff off and change it and put new VIN numbers everywhere.
I mean, technically you would, because it's been decapitalized.
Oh, well, however you will to do your estate, you can do it however you will. But when we're talking about all the people and a process, we would keep the VIN number the same. It would be in the same order. However, we would decapitalize everything.
Because I know there's processes where you can change, you can file it down, like let's say in the door frame of the conveyance, there's a VIN number there, and then there's a VIN number on the windshield, and then the number on the engine. There's places.
Well, and again, the VIN number, if you change it, look at what you're changing. Are you changing the model year, the security check digit, the assembly plant, the vehicle production number, the automobile body, brand, style, engine size and type, the automobile manufacturer, the country of manufacture? It's just it's easier to not reinvent the wheel, but just correct the record.
Okay.
It's easier to do that. And as a government, that's how we're going to do things, because that's how we've been doing things. And we're not thinking just about ourselves. We're thinking about the other people, because when other people come, they're not going to know what you know about court actions, maybe. They may know just the basics about that. And as we're issuing records and creating and continuing to create the system for everyone, it needs to be seamless, it needs to be orderly, and it needs to be universal. Universal meaning anybody who looks at that number, they're going to know what it means.
Agreed.
Islam. It just keeps down. We want to keep things simple and free flowing for the people. It's about the people, and not just our own individual things that we're doing. Islam, Justice Anthony.
Okay, when you're saying to decapitalize the VIN numbers, after you do that, now for you to place a lien, what would you be? Which one you should? The proper lien? Should you lien the initial ones or the ones you decapitalize?
You wouldn't lien what you decapitalize. You lien the one that looks like what's on the screen right now. You would lien that.
Oh, the initial one that's on the conveyance. Okay.
Yes. And then decapitalized. Let me just show you what it looks like decapitalized. I'm just going to decapitalize and nationalize this particular one. It looks like this.
Islam, Empress, that was my question. Islam.
B, that's a 08616. That's what this one would look like, decapitalized. It's that simple. All we have to do is keep it simple. and decapitalize. And then when your conveyance comes, this is what you would put in that little space. You would, if there's a capitalized VIN number, you take it off. Remember back in the 70s and 80s, and for some people it's even today, where someone would buy a brand new car, and the people, the thieves would come and steal the brand new car and take it to a chop shop and pull all the stuff off of it so that it won't be recognized. Remember that in some of the movies? And some people in some of their lives, I grew up a little bit in Detroit, Michigan, so they had a lot of chop shops where they would drive the stolen vehicle into the chop shop. And of course, we don't have to steal anything because we got the documentation and the money to buy all of that. So that's not a thing. But the point being is when it got into the shop, they could have it stripped down, all the letters taken off of it in about 5 or 10 minutes. All the letters taken off very shortly, and then put new stuff on and paint it and drive it out, and the person who bought the car could see it and wouldn't recognize that it's theirs because it was so changed. For us, we would just pull all of that stuff off and put new on there, kind of like what we did with putting blood on the doorpost, where we changed the address and all of that. Islam, and put it like it should be on the land. Islam, Justice Anthony.
Yes. So this is the restate number that we will put on the actual restate title. When we restate the title for the conveyance. When
you restate the title and restate the recordation of it. So
right.
We used to call it the registration. It's the recordation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Islam.
So whatever the VIN number is, you would decapitalize it. No matter what it is, it's easy for us to decapitalize and put it in its proper place. And then you have to do the same thing with the actual automobile, is decapitalize everything. Like my car, my automobile that I have in the driveway, I'm looking at how to take the words off, the letters off, because E320 is in all capital letters. E320, it's an E320 Mercedes-Benz. The capital letters have to come off. The same way that I took the numbers off the domicile.
So you'd be just changing the E to a lowercase.
I would change the whole thing because the numbers.
What you spell out the numbers?
No, I would just it would just be my E320. It would say E320, but it would be my own. And then I'm just thinking, what does E stand for?
The E, the E they showed you, like E and F and stuff like that. Some of them, they represent, like, if the vehicle is like a what you would say, like a comfort vehicle, or like
a sedan or a sports model or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they represent. But I'm saying, if it says E320 and you're gonna change it, the E is in a capital E, so you change that to a lowercase.
Yeah.
But you leave the 320.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't leave the 320. I would change the 320 to because I want all of it changed, not just the letters, but the numbers too.
So what would you substitute for the 320 number?
320. My 320, not theirs. My 320. My 320, not theirs.
How would that be? Could you give me?
Okay, so it would look like this. In blue or gold. It'll be in gold or chrome or silver. Gold or silver.
Oh, you'll be changing the color.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be in silver. It could be in silver also, because it's in silver on there now, but it's going to be my letters and my numbers, not theirs.
Okay. So you're just changing the color. I thought you meant that you know, some, like, for example, the number 3, it would look like there's the top piece going straight across to the right, then comes down triangular to the left, and then you make a 0 under the bottom. I thought that was the way you would have changed it. And then the 2 would be like a different style of 2 or something like that. But I fully understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, it could be a different font, because that's what you're referring to as a font.
Right.
It could be a different font, or it could be a similar font. To me, it's not as much about the font as it is about who created it.
Okay. Got you, Empress.
I could create one that looks exactly like the one they put, but the E would be lowercase. Exactly the same. Because, see, remember, nobility, whenever they tried to get us to accept a corpse, they would seemingly spell everything the same way. They spelled Pauline Ritchie the same way, using the same font, except it was black and all capital letters.
We could also put it
similar.
Right. And you could also put it in Roman, right?
Yes, I could put it in Roman numerals if I chose to do that, which would actually be a good idea. I thought about that when I saw the Mark 5 and the Mark 6 and the Mark 7. There was a car back in the 70s called Mark. It was a Mark 6 and a Mark 5, and they had them in Roman numerals.
Right.
So, yeah, we're thinking strongly about that, and I'm going to feel more comfortable, I think, with Roman numerals on my conveyance.
Okay. Gratitude.
So now I just have to figure out how to do it.
Okay, Empress.
I've been figuring out everything else thus far. I'll figure it out. I know it got to do with heat and metal, or it could be stencil of some kind and some type of metal. I don't know. The ancestors will give us that when it's time for us to have it.
I was about to say that one.
Yeah.
Or the same. The Mercedes dealers, they could do it for you.
Yeah, or I have it for myself. I prefer to do it for myself for starters, even if it looks a little bit not as what people would think it would be. I'll do it myself first, and we'll go from there.
Okay, Empress.
It's a jurisdictional principle for me.
I full stop.
Yeah, Islam.
Right.
So, are we clear on that piece, nobilities and Congress? Are we clear on how to do this piece of decapitalizing things, particularly VIN numbers?
Islam. I have a question.
Islam, Empress.
And this is now I've never seen it on the engine of the automobile, so I'm not exactly sure where that would be if we're going to replace.
Well, it would depend on what kind of conveyance it is. It depends on what kind of automobile it is as to where it is. Because if it's German automobiles, their engines are upside down. So it depends on what type of conveyance it is as to where that is, and that's something you can figure out. You can figure that out.
Yes,
yeah. YouTube will usually tell you where things like that is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We have a couple of sidebars that I will too quickly. A sidebar is something we speak about very quickly and in general. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it. This is something that we saw at in one of the videos regarding Washington D.C. Can anyone tell me what they see on this particular?
Yes, Mom, I see it right there. Oh, there's a star on the white banner underneath the other 50 stars.
Yeah.
It's one star.
It's
Blue.
green. It's green.
Right?
It's green.
Oh,
it's a green 5-pointed star like the one on our flag.
Yes, it is green.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
This
but I see it.
currently being displayed, and here I'll put the link to the video that I was watching when I saw this, and they made a kind of a big deal out of it because some people did not believe it. But there it is. This is being displayed at Washington District of Columbia, the place that they're turning back into what it should be, instead of it being an acting stage. I'm trying to, but just take a look for yourselves. I think that's going to be the proper link in the chat. But yes, a green 5-pointed star, and this was being displayed at D.C. which told us a few things. With that being stated, let's move on to the next sidebar.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions about that.
Yeah, I'd like to know what it is that it is stating from your perspective.
From our perspective, all they're doing is letting the actors who were those who were previously acting, letting them know that the change has happened. And see, remember, Empress, this is a banner of amity and commerce, so it's about the commercial piece. So that question regarding July 1st, this is ahead of that the commerce has changed. Islam nobility.
Did you put the link to that flag?
I did. It was the video where I saw this displayed at. So it's like about a probably 10 or 15-minute video. There's a subject who goes around Washington District of Columbia, and he journals what is seen, and he just tells people what he's seeing, and he takes photos of all the different things and changes that are being made there. Because, as you all know, Washington District of Columbia is a stage. It was a staging place, a place to stage theater, really.
What building was it on?
It was on he told what building it was. I'll have to watch the video again to see what building he said that was.
I'll just watch it.
Yeah, that's an important piece of information because it's going to be a sign.
Yep.
Okay. But they're letting everyone know what's coming. Okay, with the green 5-pointed star. Let's move to our next sidebar because these are. This is a photo of former black capitalism. And does anyone remember when these got pulled down from some of the places?
Wasn't it 2017?
Yeah, somewhere around there. 17, 18, somewhere around there. They started. That was a hint that the black capitalism was not happening anymore. When the Biblios talks about the trumpet sounding and the dead in Christ rising, that's a misinterpretation. What it really means is that a trump will sound. It means a sound will be heard that sounds like a trump. And then some folks will be waking up. Those who were enacting being the dead Christ, that's really what it should say. The enacted dead Christ shall rise first. And then those that remain will be caught up in the airship or air. H-E-I-R, Islam. So that trump sounded in 2020, just so that everyone is aware. And let me tell you that some things were not quite where they should have been. I won't say that. The stage had to be made ready, so there was a biding of time in between the trumps.
Wow, that was interesting.
Yeah.
You said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The biding time between the trumps. That's wow.
Yeah. Additionally, another sidebar, the Civil Rights March on June 14th, 2025. It was about the words. And if you'll notice that these are some of the enacted photos from the Civil Rights March, and you can see who's marching. It's not us, because we are sovereign rights. But if you'll notice, the street sign is in capitis diminutio minima, not in all capital letters, at District of Columbia. Okay. And then this is more from those marches. Their slogan for the marches was "No Kings." This sign right here says, if Kamala had won, we'd be at brunch right now. What that means is that we were not going to go another 100 years talking about black and proud and black this and black proud and black that. That was the clear sign that was not going to happen. That's why in that enactment, that could not be. This one is at Manhattan in all capital letters in black ink. And here they are, rejecting kings since 1776. No kings. They don't will to have it go back to ancient times where our sons ruled them. And here is some of the other protesting things. They're now claiming their immigrant status. It says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free with liberty and justice for all. And they put liberty and justice in blue and red on the signs. So they already know what time it is and all of that. They know who they are. That's why I say subjects are going to subject. They know who they are. We don't have to worry about them. Look at all the capital letters. So if you will to see some signage, that's a good place to look for signage. During that same period, here is costume actors pretending to be police. They're on horseback. On horseback. Why would they be on horseback? Anyone know what that's a sign of?
Islam.
Islam.
Would it be a change of jurisdiction?
Yes. That means that they've gone back to the old way. See, Canaan land has the Royal Mounted Police at Canaan land because that jurisdiction was claiming an older queen-led jurisdiction. And I'm putting all of that in air quotes. See, Canaan land or Canada they were saying that the jurisdiction is an old one, before automobiles. That's why they have them mounted on horses. It's a jurisdictional statement. It's a jurisdictional statement. And that's another reason also to affirm that it's a jurisdictional statement. At Canaan land, they talked about aboriginals all the time and aboriginal rights and First Nations and all of that there, but they still were not talking about the right ones. Still, we're not talking about the right ones. But they have Royal Mounted Police at Canaan land because of the jurisdiction. It's older. Something, as I was watching one of the movies, I came across this document right here. It is an operator's license from 1950s. So back then, they didn't call them driver's license. They called them operator's license, and they have a right thumbprint here on them. And the name is not in all capital letters, but it says full name. That's in all capital letters. And then they would sign them and put the seal on them as well. They used a lot of abbreviations and things of that nature, so we know this is not us. But I just will to point out that this is a bottomry instrument from when they first started making them bottomry instrument, driver's license. It wasn't really called a driver's license, even though it says here operator's driver's license. Right there, that's what it says. So for those who do not will to have a driver's license, you can always create for yourselves an operator's license. That way you're not driving, you're traveling. And you can do whatever you will as the operator. You can do commerce or not with operator's license. We started with driver's license because we willed that it be known that no matter what we call it, it's ours when we create it. That was the point of that. We call it what we will to call it, and we will use it, and we will stand and support what we state, Islam. And
Islam Empress.
Islam.
Can you identify what seal is that under the word operators?
It's a Hollywood seal, so it was California.
Okay.
It was not California, but state of Calif, because that's what it says there, Calif. Hollywood 28, Calif. So they're letting you know that this is a prop. It's a stage prop from a movie. And that's the Calif. And this is the kind of thing, Justice Anthony, that they started showing in the movies and circulating around and having everybody do these things.
No one questioning, right?
Right, thinking it was real, and we had to have that in order to drive, in order to travel on our land.
All right.
And if you'll notice, it's on black paper with white letters, which is the same script paper that the treaty that we all used to see when we were looking at the Treaty of Peace and Friendship from 1786. It looked just like this, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
That means it needs to be restated and updated and properly put on the record. That is not a real document. It's a Hollywood script document.
That's why I was concerned about that seal there.
Yeah. It's a fake seal. That's why it's in black and white. A real seal has color in it.
Right.
And even the thumbprint is not red. It's white. It's carbonated. White. And look at the words here. Above the thumbprint, it says supplementary address. The thumbprint is an address? Oh, wow. That's how you know it's Hollywood, but besides the fact that it says Hollywood 28. That's stage 28 in Hollywood because they used to have them numbered. And then look at the race. It says W. It doesn't even say white, so that could stand for witch. It don't even, it could stand for anything. That's why we have to do our own documents and not, that's why they call it television. Islam. So I will, to show you this, we can do operator's license, and that will also cover anyone who does commercial driver's license or CDLs or anything like that. With an it'll also cover forklifts and all that other stuff if you choose to do that. Now we're not going to do it, but for those who choose to do that. Again, this is a prop from Hollywood. We can do it the way we will to do it. And then finally, we have some street signs from District of Columbia in Capitis Diminutio Minimum. So let's make that big enough for everyone to see. They don't put theirs in all capital letters. That's how you know that there's something going on different here. See, these, the main ones, and then you got these other ones that look like Hollywood props that are in capital letters. And the stop sign is in capital letters. That's how you know stop signs are not that's not a thing about law. That is a code and statute also. Yes, stop signs are codes and statutes. Now we observe them because it's a good idea to do so, but those are in all capital letters too. Okay. And then lastly, finally, we were looking at some automobile contracts and videos. So we're saying know the difference between contracting with debtors and Fifth Amendment takings, okay? Those processes of Fifth Amendment takings and contracting with debtors look similar, but it's different. But if you'll notice, these days, when if for those that are trying to contract with debtors, look at the kind of deals they're getting. A $56,000 finance charge added to a conveyance that only, a car that only cost $75,000. Making the total $131,530, $134 by the time the total sale price. 17% interest, 17.69%. So people that are going out there trying to contract are still getting just a terrible deal. And the monthly payments are $1,600 for a $75,000 vehicle. That's crazy. That's crazy. A Jeep Wrangler, that's crazy. And they're charging almost double that in finance charges and interest. So this is why we're not contracting with debtors. We're writing and stating and doing all our own things, okay? And finally, we were looking at the BLM website where, they were enacting land statements. And we see here where capitalization was added to that, there's a state of Washington and then there's Washington State. both in all capital letters, one in black, one in brown. You see that? The one in brown is from 1889. The one in black was 1970. Almost 100 years later. This is how you know that there's different, and see, we're just Washington in red, blue, green, and white, whatever colors we choose. And we're not in all capital letters. That's the difference between us, the sovereign states, and corpses, corporations, and foreigners. That's the difference. And when we see this, we can restate any of this, which we already have basically restated any of this, and claim it. And that is all we have for today for this Congress.
Islam Empress.
Islam nobility.
Gratitude for all your work. I got my postmarking for my most humble domicile put up. And I got one for my mom and dad's place. So gratitude, and I got that much done. Islam.
Yes. Ooh, let me tell you. The ancestors sent some energy through here when we did that. So then we were compelled to go out to they have one of these big mailbox things out there that has everybody's mailbox all in one place out there. We went out there and changed that too. But eventually we're going to build our own mailbox made of brick and mortar out there and put our proper address and stuff on it. Because when we went to the post office to drop some mail to deposit some mailing, some parcels, we noticed that even at the quote-unquote retail part, they're selling mailboxes that are separate from those big things where they would put everybody's mailbox at. So the postman only had to, the subject in the office of postman only had to go to one place to put all the mail. But now they're separating it back out because some people, many of us are not corporate mail. We're post office. And that requires just a regular post office on the property. It has to be on the property or right at the road. So we're going to do that now. Yeah. But in the interim, until we get to that point, we just went ahead and changed the numbers. We scraped them off the box and put numbers in red and the rest of the address on the box. Because this is the land, honey, period. Everybody else better chop, get on board. This is the land. This is not no corporation and all of that. This is ancient Morocco. And it's feeling like ancient Morocco because it's hot here today. We love it. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Islam. We will adjourn. Yes, Islam Empress Minerva.
I do have a question. Is there any way you can put the link in the chat, the one that you did with the contracts? I know you did the link after the one with the YouTube, but the one that had the breakdown of what each symbol and number means.
What each symbol and number means.
What did you call it? It was contract information regarding contracts.
Oh,
and it was.
Is
yes,
it
yes.
Right here?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you, Empress. I meant to put this in the chat too. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Islam, thanks.
This is where that came from. A little study on the VIN number and what each one means.
Islam,
Empress.
Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome, Empress.
Yes, sorry about that. I have a question. So, last congressional, you you spoke of the so July 1st with Miriam and our banking building system, and you had made a statement about commanding the subjects in the office of the banking system, tellers or to issue cards. It was very, you just made that, you didn't really elaborate on it or anything, but it's been sticking in my mind, and I'd like you to elaborate on that, because it was, you said that we would have to, because the cards we were previously creating, the merchant cards, the lettering was capitalized. So we'd have something different. But there was a part where, and so I'm, because, you know, little dissonance here. So I would like you to can clarify that piece.
The ancestors are saying that we have the option to have cards that don't have any numbers on them at all. They just have a strip on them or something on them, where they don't have number or name, quote unquote, on them at all. So we have the option on the cards, Empress Shasha, to not have any numbers or letters on them at all.
Okay.
Because the trusts are so large, we don't have to have numbers and letters on them at all, especially if they're not, we're not going to have numbers and letters if they're not lowercase and all of that, if they're not in the proper case, cause, you know. And so as soon as we started looking at that piece, there came on in our news reels something about numberless cards, credit card numbers. Let's see. Numberless card. It says, what does MasterCard shift to numberless cards mean? There's a bunch of others. They call it the black card. For us, it would be a white card or a red card or a titanium or platinum or gold or silver, something of that nature. What we might do, Empress Shasha, and this is what I'm feeling more in my spirit about that process, is taking the cards that we have at home and taking them to the bank and let it be programmed. We bring the card in and it programs properly. Either that or our banking system can issue them. Either way, the closer we get to that time frame, which we're very, very close now, because the system is set up already, we'll look at that process and speak on it some more. But if I had my way, because we know that it's by our documentation, everything is being issued, we can send in the documentation and then have the card issued from where we are, you know, or make it ourselves and have it programmed at the banking system, at the bank building. I like the idea of taking a card that we have already in and having it programmed in there, because that's how they did cards anyway. They would just program them right on the spot.
Islam in first.
Just a moment, Justice Anthony. Just a moment. Empress Shasha, does that?
Yeah, that clarifies, because I couldn't. It wasn't computing with having the subjects issue, you know, that piece, and so I needed that clarification. But this makes more sense.
So when we issue things, we're issuing it. We issue it first by our documentation. That's how things are issued first, by court action, by documentation. Right. And then the subjects and the system just obeys that.
Just a command and they're obeying, right?
Yeah.
But I needed that. I needed that clarification in my own in my own mind to just set it straight. But yeah, so that does absolutely answer. And,
so the subjects don't have any control over anything. They just do what we command.
Right. And I realized that piece. I mean, I know that piece. I know that piece. But I just had to fit the two, fit it all together. That's all. And I'm grateful for clarification. That and I actually it makes sense, and I can see where names and numbers do not even need to be on.
No, it's just going to be attached to an account.
Exactly. Records again.
It'll be programmed straight to that account, and that's all.
And that's it. Exactly. So, yes, thank you for that.
Islam, you're welcome, Empress. Thank you for asking, because you think of things that sometimes we think we're clarifying it, but we want to make sure we're clarifying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I appreciate
it. Any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Islam. So the card that sends.
Justice Anthony first, actually, because he was going to say something at first. Empress Angel, and then Empress Angel.
I could let the Empress go first, or
Islam, Empress Angel.
Yes, Islam. Thank you. Gratitude. The card, so it would have to have some type of strip or chip, because I know we've talked about that previously, about having a chip or a strip for it to be programmed, because otherwise the gold cards that we had gotten, there was no mechanism to program.
So it doesn't necessarily have to have a chip or strip. It can be, if the card is of a specific type of card, it can be, let's say, a platinum or a gold card, and if it has a green 5-pointed star on it, then it's no questions asked, run it through. And it's going to automatically go back to either just a plain old trust, or your signature will tell who it comes from. So we might just autograph it and put the last 4 of the account number on there.
Because
all of our cards will look the same.
Because I remember we had embossed the gold cards that we got from, our company, Amazon, and so we had gotten that machine that you had suggested us get. You turn the dial and you pull the lever. So that's the ones, and so those cards need to be a certain size and a certain thickness and such. They came in many colors though, but we had the consensus on gold at the time, and so.
As we expand operations, some changes will take place as we expand operations. I know that the ancestors just will to see how we would do things. How we have to set the tone and show how things are to be done, and then the system will say, okay, this is how they want things done. This is how it's going to be done.
Yes.
So we had to show all of that, and then now that we are talking about decapitalizing things, even the card system is saying, okay, don't put any letters or numbers on the cards then, because they decapitalized everything. So it'll just be a card that goes to a general account, and then the signature will send that to the specific account.
Oh, wow. And so is that what was the Jasara and the Star was about?
Yep.
Oh, wow. So it's very interesting.
Now, yes, let me say this about that. All that we're doing, each one of us has to have one public works project that we write up, and we can all write up the same one because all the territories must have that. It has to be a public, something that assists the public with something. So, for example, we have to each project has to have a public assistance character or mandate in it.
Islam.
That's why the cards don't have a limit on them, but there's still the appropriations part. So in order to get the card working, you have to have that appropriations part done.
So what would that look like again?
It would just look like almost like a business proposal, and it doesn't have to be 50 pages. It can be 5 pages. Affidavit stating what the budget is and what you're going to use it for. It has to have a humanitarian piece to it, a public piece to it.
And that's
so what that would look like is, let's just say $1 million a year, and that's a low end, low ball type of thing. But we got to start somewhere. A $1 million feed the homeless part, or a $1 million housing assistance, or $1 million something. We have to write that up for whatever amount is going to be on our card, and it can be lower than the amount on our card because our cards are endless, they're infinite. We just have to show that we know what to do with it. So, so that because the money is already here, we have to just assign and appropriate it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So you stated, correct me if I'm wrong earlier, about each state has to have its own program, right?
Yes.
Okay. And yes. If we desire, we can all do the same program.
You can. So it needs the program needs to help people, and you need to be prepared to implement the program at some point soon.
That's the part that's critical.
And that's why our tests have been what they are, Empress.
Oh, you say that again.
So that we know how to implement the programs. That's what I'm saying. All of us. For example, our test was POW. We did 2 POW demonstrations. Well, we saw some things that could be, improved or whatever, or done away with completely. Because we have other places that people can go to get help instead of jail for stuff. So for us, it was an identity issue. So our humanitarian thing is always going to start with nationality and status on this land. That's our whole, after that, everything else is gravy for us. So that's the most important thing to us. It's not even about jail. It's about identity. You don't need jails when everybody knows who they are. So that's what I'm talking about. That was our test. One of our tests was identity, proper identification of the parties and the courts. So that's our part. Others have other demonstrations that they're doing. The test that we went through gave us our humanitarian process because we lived it firsthand. See, Moors don't realize that that's why they're being tested, is so that they can govern things better than they were, because we got to see all sides of it. So everything is automatically going to get better because we're governing, just like the Circle 7 Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science states. Everything got better, and the people are happy because government is what it should be. Yeah. That's what our tests were for. Islam, Imbrishasha.
Islam. Well, I know I can look at the whole health care system and mash that up. And
yeah.
But what I'm remembering, we had initiated or stated a program, like it was the feeding or food, access to food. You remember the public program that we had? So that was a public program that was put on the public record. So that can be elaborated on or expanded upon or actually initiated.
All of the general welfare clause initiatives and programs that we put on the public record, because that's a constitutional mandate. General welfare is constitutional mandate. So all of that we put on the public record is we have plenty of, we'll never be left wondering what to do because we looked at everything. Yeah. So no matter how much money and currency and gold and silver come through and more sovereign dollar and we can print up, we'll always have something to do with it. It's not like it's going to loiter around and do nothing.
Right.
It can be 666 trillion, just as we stated. It'll be put to work, put to great use. All of it, every penny.
Absolutely. I mean, because in truth, everything in the enactments must be rebuilt, must be created anew.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to look at what was there and uplift the word.
Exactly. Yes. The reason that's exactly what I mean. I stated created anew because it really wasn't until we created. So that was really why. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know y'all can feel it just like I can, that the resources are here already. I know I'm not the only one feeling that. All we got to do is go time. Yep.
Islam Empress.
Islam Empress.
So if we wanted to create a program that had wraparound services, we would basically do not necessarily a proposal, but a full business plan and actually put that in place in order to carry those out and do a budget as well for like each sector of it.
When you say wraparound, what do you mean?
So when you think about basic needs, and being able to supply those as far as wraparound services, so that nothing is left. But I mean, I would actually want to do intakes as well so that I could see, what either communities needed or what individuals needed as well.
Well, Empress, that is noble. My suggestion would be to look at it from the perspective of we already know what they need. We do know what they need.
Basic needs, yeah.
We've already done the pilot programs where we go out and see what's needed and then come back and formulate. We already did all of that. When I was in the POW camp, I saw that they couldn't recognize the difference between Moors and blacks. So it's about nationality. That was the problem. That was the issue there. Is they act like they couldn't see. So we had to just demonstrate what Moors do, who we are, and all of that. They forgot, they didn't know, they couldn't recognize a court. They knew they weren't the court. So then we had to, so we've already done that work. Everyone who's done a POW demonstration, you did your research. That is living research and development. Now we know how to write up our intentions for the resources and how we're going to make the whole world a better place peacefully. I feel it in my spirit also that the doors are already open. All we have to do is gently tap them with documentation and action. And the harvest is so ripe. It's very ripe.
Islam,
Empress.
It was funny that you had mentioned about the black card and platinum and gold, because I was traveling today and I had the same thought come across. It wasn't more so about the numbers and the letters on the card, but it was more so how the card would look, because I had come across a couple of videos and things, and they were talking about the black card, and that doing business as whatever, they recognized that card. They would like, oh, that's the black card, and it's unlimited, and oh yes, you can come in, and the red carpet was rolled out. So I had seen it a couple of times and just recognized that. So Islam, the thought has definitely it was definitely there today. Islam.
Yeah, Islam, Empress. Well, it just lets us know that yes, we can do all of that. We can do all of that. Just print up a card. The card looks a certain way. And because we have our ID with that card or our faces with that card, there's no questions asked. There's no questions asked. And it doesn't have to have numbers and letters on it at all. It can just have our flag on it. So we're going to begin going out to the territories, sending out due process and letting everyone know that we're coming. And then we're going to go out and do some demonstrations peacefully, because we know it's time. But that'll be again after the 1st of July. For us, we actually began preparing some of the demonstrations, ahead of time. Our ancestors, the things that we stated, they've manifested, and we see the other things going away as we're doing what we're doing. And it's funny because as the previous enactment goes away, the people that have full faith and trust in that previous system are not even surprised that the stuff is going away. I'm watching them and they're like, oh, well, I called and nobody answered the phone, and that's 3 days in a row. Nobody answered the phone down at the courthouse or down at the whatever, the administrative building of Social Security and whatever. Nobody answered the phone. It's been 3 days, 4 days a week, and they're not even there. The plan is perfect because they're not even panicking.
Because they've been so used to being disappointed. Because even before the enactment of the pandemic or whatever they did, people weren't even answering their phone then. So now it was even more so that they weren't in the office and they were working from home. So, I can't answer the phone. I'm sorry, they can't answer the phone. So now when they really aren't answering the phone, we're just not surprised anymore.
Yeah. That was a great strategy. That was a great strategy. Quote unquote, COVID was a great strategy. I know I got a lot done during that time period. I was everywhere. I was out there everywhere, getting stuff done, getting documents stamped and all of that. So it was great for us because we didn't have to deal with traffic or anything like that. during that whole period. We talked about it while we were doing that stuff too during that time period of that enactment. With that being stated, let's keep going. Let's keep governing. It's all good. We're doing exactly what we should be doing. Gold is doing what it should be doing. Everyone is on notice. Everyone's aware. That one, Taylor Kinney on ITM Trading, you should see some of her videos about the fiat. That's not a thing most places. It's really not. And by the time that whole system is saying, we don't accept that, we don't accept that, there's a reverse ATM right there, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because that means that everything that was previously being enacted as fiat is virtual. Well, what does that mean? That means that we have the hands-on tangibles. We have what is real. And everything is set for that. Everything is set for that. Been set for that. All we had to do is uncover it. So we are one. Let's keep moving, and peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam, gratitude.
Islam, love you all.
Islam, love you, nobility.
Islam, peace and grand rising, Lord.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Straight grand rising, Lord.
Islam.
Thank you guys. Another great congressional meeting.
Yes, indeed. Islam, nobility. Thank you.
Islam.